Regional Victoria needs to be let out of the restrictions before Melbourne. They don't have to wait until the middle of September. They can be let out now, because this is the reality of coronavirus outside of Melbourne. In the local government areas, well, just one has 50 cases. That's Geelong. 20 in the Yarra Ranges, 12 in Mitchell, 11 in Colac, and the remaining 43 cases are spread across 16 councils, and 25 councils in all of Victoria have 0 active cases, many of which have never had active cases. Yet they all are still playing by the same restrictions and lockdown rules that exist in places like Melbourne. These are the people it affects. Joanne Hooten is with the Hopetown Cafe, and she joins us now. Joanne, lovely to see you. Why are you in a lockdown? There's no coronavirus anywhere near you.
Yeah, there's none here. We're suffering just as bad as all the businesses that have got it in their towns.
So give me an idea, in an area that has just not had the problem, what's happened to your business in the past few weeks?
We've dropped probably 50 to 60%.
And have you had to step people down? What's been happening like that?
All our casual staff have been stepped down until things get better. That we're down to just family.
This is a tourist town that you live in, but of course, yep. If people can't leave Melbourne or people can't cross from other places, then the foot traffic, all the rest of it here. So if you could say something to the Premier, what would you say to Daniel Andrews tonight?
At least let the locals and the people within our shire move around. That we can't even go to the pub and have a beer or sit at like my cafe and have a coffee. That we've got nothing here. We're not risking anything.
How have you been holding up through all of this? Because you're the one who's all in. It's your business. Obviously, every day you're looking at the numbers, but how are you holding up emotionally after all of this?
Oh, some days are hard, but we're getting through, looking for positives. We've been running a pay it forward program to just keep a bit of contact with the community. That's been quite successful. We're doing tomorrow morning, all the workers in the area get a free breakfast between 7 and 9, just to try and help with mental health as well.
Bloody oath. Well, the second people can, we want them to be able to turn up to the cafe. We'll put all the promos up on our Facebook page. Good on you, Joanne. Anita Dolan is the campaign manager for Beef It Up Australia. We've talked to her before, but she's been passionate since day one that regional Victoria does not need to be punished as if it is the middle of Melbourne.
That's
you guys
right.
you've got to be out of the lockdown now.
That's right. Look, there's only one thing that I can agree with Dan Andrews today, and that is Victorians are doing it very, very well. Because we are. In regional Victoria and rural Victoria, what Daniel Andrews and his crew don't understand is they are a very, very tight-knit community. They know each other. They probably know each other better than they know each other. The businesses are hurting. I was talking to one business today in a tourist town, 83% loss on his business since the lockdown. 83%. Now, Joe, we work with Hopetown. That's one of our towns, and we can't go and do what we do because the hotels are closed. The hotels are closed. They should not be. Now, some people turn around and say, look, social distancing, the coronavirus is deadly, blah, blah, blah. The reality of it is in a small town, everyone knows everybody. The publican knows everybody. And what we're saying is that it doesn't matter if it's the pub, the cafe, the news agency, the service station. The locals know the locals. And if somebody comes in and they're not a local, sure, ask the question, where are you from? Keep a register. Our small businesses in rural Victoria, they want to do the right thing. But they really, really they're frustrated. Some are angry. I've had some on the phone crying to me. They're just saying Daniel Andrews does not understand. The Labor Party do not understand the simple fact that we are different. And I've said it time and time again. There has to be a 3-tier in this. Regardless what happens September the 13th, regardless what happens coming out of Spring Street, with the new bill that they're trying to pass, and they probably will, because a bunch of Melbourneites are going to be passing it. And thank God we've got Michael O'Brien and his crew in there batting for us. We have to have three tiers: metropolitan and city, regional, and then rural. And I've been saying this time and time again, and many, many people are agreeing with me. Each rural area has to be looked at on its merits. Each council area gives a report of what's coming in. The Andrews government is supposedly knowing of what is going on. Well, they should be knowing themselves from the figures. Look, Paul, I wrote to our Prime Minister, and I pleaded on behalf of our rural communities right across the border to please take it to Cabinet, to please plead with Daniel Andrews the fact of what I've just said about the 3 tiers, and by looking at each area by merit.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister's office has forwarded that on the 25th of August to the Premier's office. And you know what? We haven't heard anything. And I yelled at my TV when Daniel Andrews turned around and said, I don't care about anything else. I'm just worried about the COVID. That's all. You know, if Scott wants to worry about Belton Road and all the rest of it, let him go, but I'm focused on COVID. Well, sorry, Dan, but you've got a letter sitting on your desk, and I expect a reply.
Good on you.
Not for me, but for rural Victoria, right through from New South Wales border down to South Australia, because we've had a gutful.
Bloody oath. It's a good blast. That's why I let you go as hard as you could, because there's plenty more to say. Good on you, Anita. All the best. She's with Beef Up Australia. Back to the conversation now with Barnaby Joyce, with Nicholas Rees, with Senator James Patterson, and with Rita Panahi. Rita, there is no excuse for regional and rural Victoria to keep being punished as if it's central Melbourne. They should be out of this now. They don't even have to wait another 12 days.
Well, you would think so, and it wouldn't be too difficult to treat each local government area according to what's happening in that area, instead of just having this blanket approach, which is, again, unnecessarily decimating so many businesses and livelihoods. The carelessness, the careless way this has been implemented, I think, will eventually come back to haunt the Victorian government, particularly in some of these regional areas.
Nick, do you agree? I mean, you're literally the bloke from the most urbanised council, the Melbourne City Council, but do you agree with all of those cases? Just 50 in Geelong, 20 in Yarra, 12 in Mitchell, 11 in Colac, 25 local councils have 0 cases. Why should they still be in lockdown tomorrow?
Well, look, can I start by noting that in the city of Melbourne, we're certainly in terms of economic terms, we would be the hardest hit municipality in Australia. Local economy there collapsed by about 84%. So I totally get the economic the heartbreak, the agony which is going on out there at the moment. I get the calls every day, as you, James and Barnaby, would very much understand that as well. Look, I actually support the Prime Minister's move here to moving towards smaller regions than states. I support the idea that borders and strong borders do work, and they work in a pandemic, but we need to move to a more sophisticated way of putting in place those borders than the state borders. You know, we need to move from the meat axe of the state border to the scalpel of local government areas, and use a colour coding scheme like we've seen used in Denmark and other places to work out what's going on in different regions and get controls in place that can allow some normality to come back to areas where there are low cases of the COVID-19.
Barnaby, when it was New South Wales, we were talking at the time about the life you were living in Tamworth. Basically, you know, there's nothing around. There's no virus in the streets, but you had to pretend as if you were, you know, dealing with, you know, the middle of Balmain.
That's right. And Mr. Andrews, Daniel Andrews, is crashing the economy. I'll give you a remarkable date. On the 1st of July, 1851, from the headwaters of the Murray to Cape Howe, for some unknown reason, a colonial person at the time, probably with approval from England, created the state of Victoria, an arbitrary line determined by a river. And now that person is using that arbitrary line to differentiate 2 areas which are epidemiologically the same. That is, they have no virus. And what they're doing is they're tanking their economy and tanking our nation's economy. And this has got to stop, Because what we've got is we've got a range of premiers, both Liberal and Labor, who are these populist compasses, pointing to the way they think they can win a state election, fair enough, but they're not leaders. And what we have is a nation that is just collapsing. Now, I agree with Nick. We should have stronger regional focus and not state focus, because the state focus is an anachronism, unless you believe that you live on the 2nd of July, 1851.